Hello, everyone. Welcome to my podcast. Yesterday I was exhausted from my work and stuck in a heavy traffic. And then, when I noticed a quote on the back of a truck which says that sadness will come free, but happiness will come at a cost. In that moment, the word actually struck me. I realized that the happiness isn't something that just appears. We all have to work for it, sometimes at a great sacrifice. But what happens when we give our best and still don't get the outcome we expected? So, how do we keep moving forward when the cost feeling too high and happiness seems uncertain? And that is the story I really want to share with you today. So, let's dive in. Yesterday, I was very exhausted from my work, and after my work finished, while I was coming, I actually saw this quote that displays on behind one of the truck. Actually, during the traffic, we feel really exhausted and pressured while I was staying at the traffic. I was actually behind that truck, so I saw that quote really clearly. The quote is mentioned: sadness will come free, but happiness will come at a cost. So the quote actually made me a lot of sense when I saw that, because the moment is actually really different because I was exhausted from work and I was on traffic. Everything was feel really not going in my way. But when I see that quote, it actually made me realize that I need to work for my happiness.
Correct version. Yesterday, I was very exhausted from work, and after finishing while I was on my way home, I noticed a quote displayed on the back of a truck. Stuck in heavy traffic, already feeling tired and pressured, I ended up right behind that truck and could read the word clearly. The quote said, sadness will come free, but happiness will come at a cost. It struck me deeply at that moment because I was exhausted, stressed, and everything seemed to be going wrong. Reading it made me realize that happiness isn't something that just comes on its own. I have to work for it. Feedback, changed code, quote. A code means numbers or programming. Here it should be quote. Smoothed out after my work finished while I was summing. After finishing, while I was on my way home. Replace repeated actually with simpler phrasing to make it sound natural. Shortened, everything was really not going in my way. Everything seemed to be going wrong. That quote hits hard because it reflects reality. Sadness often comes naturally through life's struggle, but happiness usually requires effort, intention, and sacrifice. It's powerful that you saw it in such a low moment. It made it stick more. Do you think this message changed how you'll approach your daily life? Or was it just meaningful in that one moment?
Yeah, honestly, it actually changed the how I see my daily life, because yesterday it made me firm about my belief, because normally I don't like to work very hard, and yesterday I was actually exhausted by my work. And after while I was coming, I when I saw this quote, it made me realize that why I sacrifice my life like that. The ultimate purpose of all this effort and struggle is the at the end to achieve this happiness. So that is what I am working hard right now. So that is why it made me realize and make sense of my life. And one of the questions that I would like to ask about regarding this quote is why it mentioned that the happiness will come at a cost. Why happiness always associated with cost and sadness will come free? Why it doesn't require any effort or anything?
Correct version. Yeah, honestly, it actually changed how I see my daily life because yesterday it shaped my beliefs. Normally, I don't like to work very hard, and yesterday I was exhausted from work. On my way home, when I saw this quote, it made me question why I sacrificed so much. Then I realized the ultimate purpose of all this effort and struggle is to reach happiness in the end. That's why I'm working hard now. It helped me make sense of my life. One question I have about this quote is, why does it say that happiness will come at a cost? Why is happiness always associated with cost while sadness comes for free? Why doesn't sadness require any effort? Feedback. Remove the how I see, just how I see. Replace made me form about my belief, shaped my beliefs. Change why I sacrifice my life like that, why I sacrifice so much. Fix repetition and flow so it sounds more natural. Now about your question. Sadness feels free because it often comes naturally from loss, failure, disappointment, or even just exhaustion. Life has many challenges built in, so sadness doesn't need effort. It arrives on its own, but happiness usually needs intention. Building relationship, working toward goals, maintaining health, choosing perspective. Those things require sacrifice, time, energy, or even comfort. That's the cost the quote talked about. Do you think you're ready to pay that cost daily, like patience, discipline, or effort for your happiness?
Actually, that is one of the questions I'm struggling with because I could sacrifice myself to achieve the happiness, but the only problem is when I don't get what I expected, I'm kind of regretting about all the sacrifices I made. So, for example, recently I have sit for these uh, two assignments that I had to do in order to pass my exam. So at there, I got past one assignment, but the other assignment I actually failed. I know the failure is not anyone's fault because I I wasn't able to study well for that. But the other assignment I prepared well, so I got past that as I expected. So what I want to elaborate from this example is sometimes we work hard, sacrifice our full self, give our fullest effort. Sometimes we don't get our desired outcome, the happiness. So in that kind of situation, how do we keep ourselves alive? I mean, how do we keep ourselves, make ourselves keep going? And, you know, how do we convince ourselves that there is a hope? You could hope there is a possibility you will find the happiness with all this sacrifice, even though there is no certainty or there is no assurance. I mean, in our life, there are a lot of situations like this. Even though we sacrifice, we don't know whether we will find this happiness or not.
Correct version. That's actually one of the questions I'm struggling with. I can sacrifice myself to achieve happiness. But the problem is, when I don't get what I expected, I start regretting all the sacrifices I made. For example, recently I had 2 assignments to complete in order to pass my exam. I passed one because I had prepared well, but I failed the other because I honestly didn't study enough. What I want to highlight from this example is that sometimes, even when we work hard, give our best effort, and sacrifice so much, we don't always get the outcome we hope for, the happiness. In those situations, how do we keep ourselves going? How do we convince ourselves that there's still hope? That even though there's no certainty, there's still a possibility we'll find happiness through our sacrifice. In life, there are so many situations where we work hard, but we don't know whether happiness will really come or not. Feedback, change, I could sacrifice myself, I can sacrifice myself. Present tense fits better. Smooth, kind of regretting about, start regretting. Replace at there, for example, or just drop it. Shortened repeated phrasing like sacrifice our full self, give our fullest effort, give our best effort. Made the long sentences clearer by breaking them into smaller ones. Your question is very deep, and it's one of the hardest truths of life. Effort doesn't always guarantee results, but it always builds strength. The sacrifice is never wasted. Even if the outcome isn't what you expected, You still grow in discipline, resilience, and wisdom. That growth is part of the hidden reward. The way to keep yourself alive in those moments is to shift focus. Instead of only chasing the outcome, happiness, value the process, what you're becoming through sacrifice. Outcomes are uncertain, but your growth is certain. That's what gives you hope. You may not always get exactly what you want, but you'll always become someone stronger, wiser, and more capable of finding happiness later. Do you think you can start seeing your sacrifices not only as a price for happiness, but also as an investment in the kind of person you're becoming?
I think some aspect it actually could because I want to be this expert or a well professional person in the finance field, and that is why I am preparing for this examination as well. But I think on the other side, I could say that the experience I am getting, irrespective of the exam result, is also something that I could be proud of myself, and as well as that will help for me to become a well qualified person in the finance sector. I just could think like that, but the brutal truth is every time I cannot think in that way, right? Because sometimes when I start to compare myself with others, I will feel really drained, right?
Correct version. I think in some aspect, it actually could, because I want to become an expert or a well qualified professional in the finance field. And that's why I'm preparing for this exam. But on the other side, I can also say that the experience I'm getting, regardless of the exam result, is something I can be proud of. That experience will help me become a well qualified person in the finance sector. I try to think like that, but the brutal truth is, I can't always think positively. Sometimes, when I start comparing myself with others, I feel really drained. Feedbacks, change some expected actually could. In some aspect, it actually could. Smooth a well professional person, a well qualified professional. Adjusted irrespective, regardless, more natural here. Replace every time I cannot think in a bad way, I can't always think positively. Fix that will help for me. That will help me. What you said is very real. Comparing yourself with others is one of the fastest ways to drain your energy. The truth is, everyone's timeline is different. Some people may seem ahead today, but you don't see their struggles behind the scene. The value is not only in reaching the goal, but in how consistently you stay on your own path. When you compare, you're borrowing someone else's standard instead of focusing on your own growth. The way to balance it is to measure yourself against your past self. Are you more knowledgeable, more disciplined, or more resilient than you were a year ago? That's the only fair comparison.
So, as we close this conversation, I want to leave you with this thought. Sadness may come naturally, but happiness is something we build through effort, sacrifice, and resilience. Even when the outcome isn't what we hope for, the growth we gain along the way is never wasted. The key is not to compare ourselves with others, but to measure how far we come on our own journey. Happiness may come at a cost, but it's a cost worth paying because it shapes us into the people we are meant to become. Thank you.